Game of Thrones is back. That was the headline flooding news feeds this past Monday. In reality, though, the excitement wasn't about a full return of the original series, but about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, a spin-off we've discussed many times and genuinely been anticipating. The first episode has finally premiered, which means it's time to talk about how strong the opening turned out to be, what fresh elements the writers introduced, and which references and details are already hidden in the debut. Let's start with the critical response, because critics have been almost unanimously positive. Many have already labeled A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms the Mandalorian of the Game of Thrones universe, pointing to its smaller, more intimate scale and its clear focus on character relationships rather than grand spectacle. Reviews highlight the engaging story, carefully constructed character arcs, and, most importantly, the chemistry between the two central characters. At the same time, critics emphasize that this is not the Westeros audiences are used to. There are no massive dragon battles, no large-scale wars, and no sprawling political conspiracies. Instead, the series tells a more personal story, a grounded and charming narrative that fully immerses the viewer in the events surrounding a single tournament. According to early reactions, this limited scope actually works to the show's advantage, making it feel more focused and emotionally coherent. Of course, critical opinion doesn't always match audience reception, but in this case, there's strong confidence that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms will resonate not only with longtime fans, but also with viewers who are entering the world of Westeros for the first time. The show is clearly designed so that deep knowledge of the lore isn't required to enjoy it. This is an important distinction, especially when compared to House of the Dragon, which many viewers felt overwhelmed newcomers with a dense web of characters and family connections right from the start. Here, the approach is very different. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms follows a classic underdog narrative, the story of an outsider trying to prove his worth in a harsh and unforgiving world. One of the first things that immediately stands out is the episode length. The premiere runs for roughly 40 minutes, while the remaining episodes are closer to 30 minutes each. The first season consists of just 6 episodes total, so viewers expecting the traditional 50 to 60-minute prestige format of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon may be caught off guard. This shorter runtime is intentional. The showrunners have explained that it directly reflects the source material. Unlike the massive novels of A Song of Ice and Fire, the original story behind this spin-off is much more compact. Reducing the episode length allows for a tighter, more precise adaptation. And from the very first scenes, it's clear that this series is built on a fundamentally different creative philosophy. That difference in approach becomes clear almost immediately. There's a moment early in the episode when Dunk decides to travel to the Ashford tournament, and the familiar Game of Thrones musical theme quietly begins to play in the background. For a split second, it feels like the iconic opening titles might start, perhaps with a new arrangement tailored to this spin-off. Instead, the scene abruptly cuts to Dunk relieving himself by the roadside. It's both humorous and symbolic, a clear signal that viewers shouldn't expect the usual prestige TV rhythms or grandiose presentation associated with the franchise. From the very first episode, it's obvious that this is a different perspective on Westeros. The story approaches politics from the ground level, seen through the eyes of common folk rather than kings and queens. The writers explore power, honor, and survival through the lens of a wandering knight struggling to prove his worth. The tone is noticeably lighter and more humorous, which sharply distinguishes the series from both Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. At the same time, this tonal shift creates an interesting blend of nostalgia and novelty. It feels familiar, yet clearly new. Critics have also noted that the narrative is designed to unfold gradually. According to early reviews, the story builds steadily and reaches its peak around the 5th episode, where the most spectacular moments of the tournament, already teased in trailers, finally take center stage. The first 3 episodes are largely devoted to setup, establishing the setting, introducing the characters, and allowing the audience to form emotional connections. After that, the plot accelerates and moves swiftly toward its conclusion. One potential issue, however, lies in the weekly release format. Reviewers were able to watch all episodes in advance, which effectively turns the season into a single 3-hour experience, roughly the length of a Lord of the Rings film. Regular viewers, on the other hand, will have to wait week by week. With episodes averaging around 30 minutes, some may initially feel that the pacing is slow, even though the full story flows smoothly when viewed as a whole. Overall, though, the early impression is strongly positive. The spin-off remains faithful to George Martin's writing, and its atmosphere makes it clear clear that we're exploring a different corner of Westeros, one that feels smaller, more personal, and more grounded. What's particularly interesting is how closely certain scenes mirror the graphic novel adaptation of the story, sometimes almost panel for panel. Martin himself praised that adaptation, and the series clearly benefits from drawing inspiration from it. Now that we've covered the general tone and structure of the premiere, it's time to take a closer look at the references and details already hidden in the first episode, the elements that reveal just how carefully the story has been constructed. Let's move on to the references and details that immediately stand out in the premiere and show how much attention the creators paid to the source material. First of all, the title A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms itself comes from the combined collection of novellas. The specific story adapted in the first season is The Hedge Knight. The show repeatedly plays with this concept, weaving it directly into the narrative and placing strong emphasis on Dunk's social status from the very beginning. In Westeros, there are essentially two kinds of knights. Some live in castles and serve powerful lords, while others wander the realm in search of work, food, and recognition. Romantic notions of sleeping under the stars quickly give way to harsher realities: poverty, hunger, worn-out clothes, bad smells, and constant risk. The first episode highlights this repeatedly. People comment on Dunk's appearance, his smell, the fact that he doesn't even own a proper tent, and that losing the tournament would leave him with absolutely nothing. A particularly intriguing detail concerns Dunk's knighthood itself. Despite the flashbacks involving Ser Arlan of Pennytree, the series never clearly confirms whether Arlan officially knighted Dunk before his death. George Martin deliberately kept this ambiguous in the books as well, offering hints but no definitive answer. As a result, both viewers and readers are left to decide for themselves whether Dunk is a true knight or merely claiming the title in good faith. Horses, interestingly, play a narrative role almost as important as direwolves did for the Starks. Dunk's horse, Chestnut, is the one he grows truly attached to, constantly speaking to it as a companion. The other two horses previously belonged to Ser Arlan, yet Dunk never forms the same bond with them. This small detail reinforces his emotional isolation and his lingering connection to his former mentor. The tournament setting naturally brings together representatives of many great houses. One of the most memorable early appearances is House Baratheon, represented by Lionel Baratheon. He wears a crown bearing his house's sigil, radiates charisma, laughs loudly, and clearly enjoys feasting. In both appearance and manner, he strongly recalls a younger version of Robert Baratheon. In the books, Lionel is described as nearly as tall as Dunk himself, and while the show doesn't fully emphasize this physically, both characters still stand out during group scenes, especially during the dance. House Dondarrion also makes an appearance, a name longtime fans will immediately associate with Beric Dondarrion and his flaming sword. It is a member of this house whom Dunk asks to vouch for his knighthood. However, Manfred Dondarrion shows little interest in helping him, being far more concerned with women and festivities. We also see House Fossaway of Cider Hall, recognizable by the apple on their sigil, and known as bannermen of the Tyrells. Their representative, Sir Stefan Fossaway, directly challenges Dunk, setting up future conflict. Territorially, all of this places us close to Tyrell lands, as House Ashford, the host of the tournament, also swore fealty to Highgarden. Although the Targaryens haven't yet been formally introduced, one of them already appears briefly. In the tavern where Dunk stays, he notices a man sleeping in a corner, Daeron Targaryen, known as the Drunkard. He is the eldest son of Maekar I, and first in line to the Iron Throne. His heavy drinking is not without reason. He is plagued by prophetic dreams of dragons, and uses alcohol to dull their impact. Other houses are mentioned in passing as well, including the Lannisters, the Caswells, and once again, House Ashford itself. And this is only the first episode. Many more are sure to follow as the tournament unfolds. A subtle but telling visual detail involves Dunk's belt. Instead of a proper leather belt, he ties his armor with a simple rope. This isn't just a symbol of poverty. It also highlights his size and strength. Ser Arlan's armor doesn't properly fit him, and before competing in the tournament, Dunk will have to deal with that problem one way or another. Finally, there are unmistakable parallels between Dunk and Brienne of Tarth. This is no coincidence. George Martin has said that Dunk's character was a major inspiration when he later created Brienne. Both embody a sincere belief in knighthood, honor, and moral duty. Both are outsiders, mocked by others, yet deeply committed to their personal codes. Notably, they are also the only characters in the television adaptations who openly recite the Knight's Oath on screen. Brienne in full during the 8th season of Game of Thrones, and Dunk here in a shorter, more casual form. All of these details reinforce one thing. This spin-off isn't just borrowing the Game of Thrones name. It's carefully grounding itself in Westerosi history, themes, and symbolism, just on a much more personal human scale. There are also a few carefully placed hints for viewers who haven't read the books, subtly foreshadowing Egg's true identity. First, he's clearly far more educated and well-spoken than a typical orphan. He knows the names of famous knights, understands courtly manners, and rides remarkably well for his age. When Dunk initially assumes Egg comes from Fleabottom, the boy quickly corrects him, saying that he was born in King's Landing, but not in Fleabottom itself. This line is delivered casually, yet it immediately creates intrigue around his background. The show wisely avoids spelling anything out too early, preserving the mystery for newcomers while rewarding book readers who already know what's coming. This balancing act between accessibility and restraint is one of the episode's strongest qualities, and it ensures that future reveals will feel earned rather than rushed. Another important visual detail appears when Dunk tosses a coin as he leaves the inn. The coin bears the image of a seven-pointed star, a symbol of the faith of the seven. This isn't accidental framing. Faith, judgment, and divine justice play a major role in the story ahead, and the trial of seven will become one of the narrative's defining moments. By highlighting the coin so clearly, the series plants a symbolic seed early on, long before its full significance becomes clear. The episode's final scene is especially telling. Dunk and Egg lie beneath an elm tree, watching a shooting star streak across the sky. While the other knights are asleep in their tents, only these two witness the omen. Dunk takes it as a sign of good fortune, believing that luck will be on their side in the days to come. For a knight who owns little more than his armor and his hope, this belief matters deeply. This moment also points toward the creation of Dunk's future personal sigil. A knight needs a symbol, something to fight under and believe in, and the falling star becomes a natural reflection of his optimism, perseverance, and faith in destiny. It's a quiet but powerful scene that reinforces the series' emphasis on meaning found in small, human moments rather than grand spectacle. Overall, the premiere makes it clear that returning to Westeros still feels special. The tone is different, the scale is smaller, and the cast is largely unfamiliar, yet the world remains rich, grounded, and unmistakably alive. As the story progresses, the pace is expected to quicken, building toward more dramatic confrontations and tournament action. The fact that the show has already been renewed for a second season suggests that HBO is confident in where this journey is heading. So the real question now is simple. How did the first episode work for you? Does A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms feel like a worthy addition to the franchise, or is Game of Thrones still impossible to replace? Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be back very soon with a deeper breakdown of what comes next.